Hello everyone, welcome to a review of one of my practice weapons. This is my Regenyei Feders. First I'd like to say sorry about the lighting. It's a very sunny day out and I couldn't get the lighting very good. If I closed the curtains there was too many shadows, and so I'm just going to have to go with it. So there might be some weird lighting and reflections going on in the video. This is a review of my Regenyei Feders. This has become a very popular weapon in modern HEMA schools and tournaments and practices in general. It's designed after a German Feder, which is a weapon that was used primarily starting somewhere around the 15th century and I believe got really popular towards the 16th century. If you want to look up the history, just go on Wikipedia and check it out. And there you can find out why it's called a Feder. It's kind of debatable. A lot of people think it was named a Feder after the groups of people who were using it. I believe Feder means feather or quill. But without getting into the history of this weapon, I'd rather talk about the weapon itself as we use it today. So this weapon, if you go on a YouTube or websites, you'll find a lot of people using this weapon for practice and in tournaments. And that includes the actual Regenyei itself. So there are a lot of other reviews of this weapon out there, so mine will not be one of the first. So I'll just give my perspective on this weapon. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is its durability. So now, durability can be a little bit subjective, so take it with a grain of salt. These are all handmade, which means some could come with their own quirks and flaws that others do not. So my durability rating for this weapon is a high 10 out of 10. I've been using this for about 2 years with heavy sparring, tons of practice, and tons of light work. And nothing has come loose, and this thing's been hit hard very, very often. The blade has stayed true. It hasn't bent. The cross guard hasn't bent. The handle stayed together very well. So this, for me in particular, is a very high 10 out of 10. Now, like I say, everyone else has their own issues. Some people, the cross guards have bent. With other people, it's broke at the tang. And other people have the blade itself that has bent. Now, some of those in videos that I've seen, I believe are user error. Some of them. Other ones, they may have just got a bad one off the, from the manufacturer, and there's not much you can do about that. But overall, reviews of this weapon from other people are very positive. Now, when it comes to the review of its handling and its general use for HEMA, once again, if I gave this a score out of 10, I would give it a very solid 8. So the good things about this weapon, actually let's talk about the things I don't like about this first. There's very few of them. The first thing is the quality of the materials on the handle. This one came with a just regular string wrapping that went around it, which was on there very loosely, and it only took a few hits before it started to fray, and even my gloves were eating it up a little bit. So I quickly put some glue on that, and then I have ever since used hockey tape, which is one of my personal practices, being Canadian, and at the same time, hockey tape is cheap, and it's thick, and you can double wrap it, and it keeps the handle quite protected. And after a little bit of use, the gumminess goes away, and it gets this nice, solid feeling for your hand underneath, which gives you, I believe, the right amount of grip and slipperiness all at the same time for handling purposes. So that's a negative side, but I've noticed on a lot of sword videos for practice weapons in general, very few people give the quality of what's on the handle high reviews anyway. So I wouldn't treat this sword too harshly because of that. The other two areas that it's a strength and a weakness. So if you'll notice how difficult it is to bend this blade. That can be good for durability and also good when you're finding or parrying another person's weapon. That's a strength. but at the same time, it is pretty harsh on your opponent when you thrust them. So this isn't the nicest weapon to use against your opponent for thrusting. Fetters in general for cuts and whatnot are very easy on your opponent due to the way the blade is designed. So the other way that this weapon sort of fails, once again, it's a little bit of a nitpick here, is the way this bends does keep your opponent safe, and they do grind it down so it's very soft and it won't snag on your opponent's armor or their skin, but it is thin. So that can still hurt your opponent and dig into in between a rib or up in a chin if it gets deflected up. So I think this could be a little bit thicker and it would make the sword a little bit safer. So outside of that, everything else about this weapon is pretty spot on. The point of balance, so this one in particular, this fetter, point of balance is about right there, I believe. Maybe actually even a little closer. Yeah, right there. So there's the point of balance. So that's actually, as you notice, very close to the actual crossguard. That's what, about 4 inches or so? Yeah, maybe about 4 inches away from the crossguard, which means this is a very agile sword. It handles very nicely in the air. Its rotation is very easy, and it transitions from one side of a person's sword to the other side of their sword, whether you're going under or around, whatever you may be doing. It's a very agile weapon. I tend to prefer that, so the fact that this weapon had that was a bonus for me. Some people prefer to have their point of balance a little farther out on the weapon. Some go out even as far as like 8 inches, which gives the sword a much more of a blade heavy feeling. And for people who like to cut very often when they are in tournaments or fight, that may be a better choice for them. So this one may not be a choice if you like to really feel your blade in combat or finding or cutting. The crossguard of this weapon is very wide, as you can see from here. I forgot to measure it. The weapon itself is 52-ish inches, which is about 130 or so, 132 centimeters. This is a very long weapon. It's a very large weapon, so it's surprisingly agile, and I believe that's once again because of the where they have the center of balance there. Also, the way the blade stop here is designed and the way the crossguard is designed, it's designed pretty perfectly so that you're always going to collect something on this weapon due to the size of the crossguard. Plus, when the sword, your opponent's sword deflects off this way, it's almost always still going to deflect off and hit the crossguard, which makes this a very nice weapon if you do like to collect other people's weapons in your style of fighting. To the actual center of percussion of this weapon, I don't know where the center of percussion on Feders actually is supposed to be. And what I've read is a little bit vague as well. This one itself is, I think, right there. It's where you would expect it to be on this weapon, with the point of balance being so far back. But because I don't know where they should be on Feders or whether even Feder design takes that into account very much, I can't make too much comment on whether that's in the correct spot, but I do know the sword handles very well, so it was thought about. There isn't too much more to say about this sword, other than if you're looking for a moderately priced weapon, this is a good way to go. It's priced in the middle. I can't comment too much on what I paid because I ordered 2 of these, one for myself and a friend, and I express shipped them from HEMA Supplies, which I'll link down below, in the south of the US. And I'll have to give a shout out to HEMA Supplies because they, I paid for express shipping and it came to me in 2 days, which I was very surprised about in the winter. And I'm up here in Vancouver, Canada, so shout out to them for getting this to me very quickly. I hope to, in the future, maybe even do a follow-up review, maybe a year from now, to see how much it's held up. As you can see, the blade is pretty thick. It is a practice weapon, so it does have about a 5mm to 3mm taper. So the blade itself is very safe for use. Just in case people out there are new to this, when you're looking for a practice weapon, make sure you're getting something that's around 5mm. Otherwise, it will not be safe for your opponent. The more it tapers, the more likely it is to cleave your opponent. Plus, the durability of the blade will suffer. The more it tapers, the more it will chip up and eventually become like a saw. So I don't have too much more to say about this weapon other than I can highly suggest them. My experience for durability has been very good. It handles very well. It is great in tournaments. It is a very fast weapon. It weighs about 3 pounds, and although you can find a couple variations of Feders out there like the Neiman Light, even those are still about 2.8 pounds, so they're not that much lighter than these. Thanks for watching this review of the Regenyei Feder. I hope you enjoyed it, and please like the video. Please subscribe if you want to see a few more reviews coming in the future, and check out my old videos. Thank you. Have a good day or evening.